Ever feel like trying to read tea leaves when it comes to the currency market?
I know what you mean.
Yeah, like where's it all going?
Right.
Well, today we're talking about something that might just be the secret weapon, the COT report.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It can show us where the really big money is flowing.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. The COT report is like, it's like getting a sneak peek behind the curtain to see how the big players are betting on currencies.
Okay, so before we get lost in the excitement, let's back up.
Okay.
What exactly is the COT report, and why should we even care about it?
So every Friday, like clockwork, this report comes out.
Okay.
And it basically shows us the positioning of traders in the futures market, which, yeah, it's a fancy way of saying it tells us who's betting on a currency to go up or down. Now, this isn't just for, your average Joe.
Right.
This report focuses on big players, the institutions and hedge funds.
Got it. So it's like a glimpse into the minds of the market movers and shakers.
Yeah.
But how does that help us understand what might happen with, say, the dollar or the euro?
So the COT report breaks down traders into two main groups, commercials and non-commercials.
Okay.
Commercials are like the insiders companies doing business internationally who use the futures market to hedge or protect themselves against big currency swings.
Okay.
Non-commercials, on the other hand, are often speculators, kind of the risk takers betting on future price movements.
So if a lot of commercials are betting on the euro to go up, does that mean it's like a sure thing?
Not quite. Remember, it's just a snapshot in time. But seeing those big players making moves can give us valuable clues about market sentiment, how they feel about a particular currency at that moment.
Okay.
And by analyzing those trends over several weeks, we can start to see if a currency is gaining or losing favor.
This is fascinating. It's like we're getting a sneak peek at the playbook of the pros.
Exactly. For example, this week's report, which came out on October 1st, shows some interesting trends. The British pound, or GBP, is looking particularly strong.
Oh, how so? Did someone find a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow in London?
Haha, not quite that exciting.
Okay.
But close. The report shows that a large portion of those non-commercial traders, the speculators, are holding what we call a net long position in GBP.
Okay.
What this means is that they're betting big on the pound going up. In fact, over 60% of them are leaning in that direction. That's a very strong signal.
Wow, over 60%. It's like they know something we don't.
Yeah.
But what could be driving that kind of bullish sentiment?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's where things get really interesting. Some analysts believe that recent positive economic data coming out of the UK is making investors more optimistic about the pound's future.
So it's like they're putting their money where their mouth is, betting on the UK economy to keep chugging along.
Precisely. And that's just one example. This week's COT report has a lot more to unpack, like the surprising strength of the Japanese yen.
Okay, hold on. Don't spoil it. We'll save that juicy tidbit for part 2.
All right, sounds good.
We'll be right back with more insights from the currency markets. And we're back. Before the break, we were digging into the surprising strength of the British pound. But it sounds like the GBP isn't the only one feeling the love.
Yeah, you caught that. The Japanese yen, or JPY, is also showing signs of strength in this week's COT report.
Okay, so walk us through this. What's going on with the yen? Why are traders feeling so bullish on it?
Well, it's not quite as extreme as the GBP.
Right.
But the JPY is seeing a good chunk of those speculative traders, about 30%, holding a net long position. So that means they're anticipating the yen to strengthen against other currencies.
30%, so not quite a landslide, but still a significant vote of confidence. What's behind this trend? Is it a similar story to the UK with positive economic data?
It's a bit more nuanced with the yen. Remember, currencies, it's all relative, right? While the Japanese economy isn't exactly booming, it's seen as a safe haven in times of global uncertainty.
So if investors are getting nervous about what's happening around the world, they flock to the yen like it's like a warm blanket.
Yeah, exactly. And with all the geopolitical stuff happening lately, it's understandable why some investors might be looking for that sense of security.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. So we've got the pound acting like a rock star and the yen playing the role of the reliable best friend. What about the other side of the coin? Who's feeling the pressure this week?
Well, if the pound and the yen are the stars of the show, the Swiss franc and the Canadian dollar are definitely feeling a bit left out.
Oh no, those poor currencies. What's going wrong in Switzerland and Canada?
It's all relative, right? Both the Swiss francs, or CHF, and the Canadian dollar CAD are seeing a large number of those speculative traders holding what we call net short positions.
Hold on, remind me, net short means?
It means they're betting on those currencies to weaken. It's like they're borrowing those currencies now, hoping to buy them back later at a lower price to make a profit.
Ah, so they're essentially betting against the Swiss franc and the Canadian dollar. But why? What makes them think those currencies are headed for a downturn?
Well, both Switzerland and Canada are heavily reliant on global trade. With all the uncertainty in the global economy right now, investors might be a little concerned about their prospects.
So it's a bit of a domino effect. Global uncertainty shakes confidence in these trade-dependent economies, and their currencies feel the heat. It's like a financial soap opera.
You could say that. And speaking of uncertainty, there's one more player we need to talk about. The US dollar.
Okay.
It's sitting right in the middle this week. Not quite strong, not quite weak.
Intriguing. So what's the deal with the US dollar? Is it just playing it safe, waiting to see how things shake out?
It's a bit more complicated than that. While the overall sentiment towards the US dollar seems neutral right now, there's a twist. We're seeing what we call a high spreading percentage in the COT report.
Okay, you're going to have to break that one down for me. High spreading percentage. What in the world does that even mean?
It basically means that a big chunk of those big speculators are hedging their bets.
Okay.
They're simultaneously holding both long and short positions on the US dollar.
So they're betting on it to go up and down. That seems a bit counterintuitive, doesn't it?
It might seem that way at first,
Yeah.
but it usually just means there's a high level of uncertainty in the market. These traders aren't really sure which way the dollar is going to jump, so they're covering all their bases.
Wow, so even the pros are a little bit confused right now. It's almost comforting in a weird way.
Haha, don't get too comfortable just yet. Remember, this is just 1 week's worth of data.
Right.
The real magic happens when we start to see how these trends evolve over time.
That's a great point. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's move on to part 3, where we'll talk about how we can actually use these trends to our advantage. Okay, so we're back and ready to become currency forecasting masterminds. Using these COT report trends, how can we make them work for us?
Yeah, so first you really want to keep an eye on those big shifts in net positions.
Okay.
Like, if we see those long positions in the British pound just keep climbing week after week,
Right.
that tells us the market is feeling really confident about it,
Okay.
But if those positions start to shrink,
Right.
or even reverse,
Yeah.
that could be a sign that things are changing.
Okay, so it's not just about the numbers themselves, but how they're changing. Like, if we see those speculative traders suddenly getting cold feet about the yen,
Right.
does that mean the safe haven appeal is wearing off?
Could be. Yeah. And that's what makes those non-commercial guys so interesting to watch. They tend to be way more sensitive
Yeah.
to those changes in sentiment.
Yeah.
So they're like our canaries in the coal mine.
I like that. The canaries in the coal mine. So if they start, like, bailing out of a currency, is that a sign that something's up, even before we hear about it in the news?
Exactly. Maybe there's some economic data on the horizon,
Right.
a change in government policy,
Yeah.
or even just a shift in the overall, risk appetite.
Okay.
But the COT report can give us a little heads up.
This is incredible. It's like we have a secret decoder ring for the currency markets. But before we get too carried away, let's talk more about the US dollar. You mentioned it was looking a little uncertain.
Right.
What should we be watching for there?
Well, the US dollar is always interesting because it's the
Okay.
world's reserve currency.
Right.
So it kind of plays by its own rules.
Okay.
That high spreading percentage
Right.
with traders hedging their bets, that really tells us there's no clear consensus.
Okay, so how do we cut through all that noise? What should we be looking for in the next couple of COT reports?
Just keep a close eye on how those positions are moving.
Right?
If we start seeing a really big move towards either a net long or net short position,
Yeah.
that could mean a shift is coming.
Okay.
Like, for example, if they start ditching their short positions and loading up on long positions,
Right.
it could mean they're feeling better about the U.S. economy.
So, more to come. This has been really, really interesting.
It's a fascinating report.
But I have to ask, is this COT report, is it really the be-all and end-all of currency forecasting?
Well, it's a great tool, a powerful tool,
Yeah.
but there's no such thing as a perfect crystal ball.
That's true. We can't forget about the real world.
Exactly. Got to keep the bigger picture in mind.
Right.
What's going on in the global economy. Any big political events on the horizon.
Right.
Because all of those things have an impact.
Right. Big
Yeah, sometimes in ways you really don't expect.
That's true.
Yeah.
So it's all about combining those insights from the COT report with what we're seeing out in the world and our own analysis.
Exactly. The COT report gives you a real edge, but it's just one piece of the puzzle.
I love that. It's like we're financial detectives
Yeah.
piecing together all the clues
Love it.
to try to solve the mystery of what's going on in the currency market.
It is a bit of a mystery sometimes.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, sadly, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into the COT report.
It goes by so fast.
It really does. But now you have the knowledge to navigate the currency market like a pro, so good luck out there, everybody.
Happy trading, everyone.
And we'll see you next time on the deep dive, where we'll break down another piece of the financial world.
Sounds great.
See you next time.